All right, we will call this meeting to order at 7:06 p.m. This board has a land acknowledgement and anti-racism statement that we have written in support. Both are posted on the board's website. Roll call tonight. Joel Dobbins and Steffi Jones had excused absences, and Andy Glover is not here as well, but I did not hear from him. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Hey guys.
Oh,
Yeah, could we amend the agenda real quick?
there's Andy too. Yep, I forgot about Keith. Keith's got a ACC person to approve. Good catch, Josh.
Would you like to take it from here, Keith?
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And what I wanted to ask was Susie Zolinsky wanted to join the ACC committee, and I just needed confirmation from you guys that that would be okay to acknowledge her acceptance to the ACC.
So we'll amend the agenda to add ACC member approval for Susie.
Thank you.
Under 7C.
Yep.
Do you need a second, Josh?
Yes, please.
I'll second the amended agenda motion.
All right, all those in favor of amending the agenda?
Aye.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the amended agenda now?
Motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Do we have any announcements?
Linda, are you going to be a long time? No, go ahead.
Yes,
What
I'm
does it
gonna
matter?
take
We're going to be here
forever
anyway.
and ever. Just a reminder, everybody, the ballot box is out. The ballots have been mailed. Just if you haven't gotten one, there's instructions on the website how to get one from Unilect, that sort of thing. And just, we're going to be doing our first registration tomorrow afternoon. So I'll be able to see kind of how we're doing with ballots coming back, being dropped off at admin. And another reminder to everybody, pretty soon we're going to be getting our county ballots. There is a notice up by the county box to do not put your Sudden Valley ballots in that county box. Those are for county ballots only. I'm done.
AJ Bryan had his hand up.
I have my hand up.
Hi, Brian.
Yeah, I don't know if you all saw the email, but I sent an email a couple days ago about the community member wants to do some woodworking and build a free little library for us for free. All materials would be free and in Gate 5. So they're Gate 5 residents. Angie and Eric Lockridge, they're Angie's father lives here with them, and he's a woodworker. And there's another community member willing to help. So how do we get that done?
I've been meaning to respond to you on that email. I just have not found
I meant to send a follow-up, and I didn't find a minute either. So that's why I'm mentioning it now.
Do you think they could maybe just provide us like a little mock-up of what it would like look like, you know, kind of thing, so we could then put it on the agenda for the next meeting or something like that?
I can
we
pass
kind of
that.
like, you know, we
Pass
know
that
what
word
we
along
know
to
what we're
them.
approving, basically, like what it kind of like aesthetically will look like. I mean, it doesn't have to be like perfect or anything, but
I think pretty much we can, I believe that it'll look very, very similar to the other little library down at the other gate, wherever that is. But I'll check with them and I'll get back, and I'll ask them to perhaps provide more information if possible.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, we could approve, we could put that, I'll make sure to get that on the agenda for the next meeting.
Thanks, AJ.
I didn't think about it this meeting. Sorry about that.
We have a lot on our plate, but thank you. Appreciate it. All right. That's it.
I have a couple announcements, AJ.
Go ahead. Go ahead, John.
The Valley Arts Group is inviting the community to a reception for local artists. I'm going to butcher your name. I'm so sorry. Rhea Booth. It's this Saturday, the 16th at the community center in the dance barn from 4 to 6 p.m. Trunk or treat is Sunday, October 31st from 3 to 5. There's going to be spooky monsters, pumpkins, all that kind of good stuff at the barn. And there's a holiday craft fair November 13th, 10 to 3 p.m. at the dance barn. Thanks.
Josh, any other announcements? Sam?
Yeah, I've been checking out Lake Louise. There's folks that were concerned about it dropping, and I've been hiking around there, checking all the drainage, and it also checked both sides of the dam and the wetlands over there. And so anybody that's listening or wants to check it out, I've told a few people that some of the hikers over there said they've seen it like that before. So they're not worried. They've been there 20 years hiking around the lake. So for everyone out there, I did see plenty of drainage going into the lake. It's cooling down. Evaporation should go away. And it looks like it'll be filling back up.
Sam, by any chance, did you talk with golf? And they've turned off all of their stuff for irrigation for the golf course, right?
I did talk with golf, and they did say, I didn't ask if they turned it off because they haven't been using it, but he did say that that's to let everybody know also that that's part of the drawdown in the summer is golf, the watering, irrigation of the golf course. And I did put that into some social media sites telling people that. And so there's more people seeing it. So there's less concern about Lake Louise disappearing.
Okay. Yeah, it really is down.
All right. Any other announcements? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to property owner comments.
Yeah, we got a few people with us, and we got a hand raised right away here from Raul. I'll go ahead and bring you on over. If you could give your name and address, please.
Okay, Raul Becerra, K3. Is that good? Hello?
Yep.
We know you, Raul. We know that you're a resident. Go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank the board. Comparing this board to the previous board, and I'm not going to go into detail on that, but I've seen the what seemed to be a lot of effort, I'm sure, on the Red Barn thing, checking it out real carefully, to reinforcement as opposed to buying, getting a new building. And I know Glenn came over one time, we talked for a bit, and he told me whatever that bid was last year, that figure they were throwing around, I think it was 12 million for a new barn, new dance barn. And he said it would have been more than that because you get into cost overruns. And he said it would have been, in his estimation, it would have been maybe more than 15 or 16 million. But anyways, I'm hoping I'm going to be moving, and I think I'm aiming for next year, but I want to give some suggestions before I leave. And I hope, one of them is, I hope that this community doesn't expand amenities, keep what we have within the budget, maintain it, and get away from, hopefully, from building new buildings. And if you keep going the way you guys are going, I think it's going to be pretty good. And again, I'd like to commend all of you for straightening this whole thing out and going in the what I think it's the right course. And that's it.
All right.
Thank you, Raul.
Thanks, Raul.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll go ahead and return you to the participants here. All right. Anybody else want to jump in for the first round of property owners' comments? Just use raise hand on Zoom and we'll bring you right on over. Doesn't look like it at this time.
All right. Well, we will keep moving forward. We'll have another round at the end of the meeting. Do I have a motion to move into closed session?
Motion to move into closed session.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll see you over there. All right. Have everyone back. Linda.
No Linda. Yet.
So maybe we should just, is there, everybody else is here, right?
We'll give her a sec.
Okay. Can someone play some music or something while we're on hold?
We could all sing Kumbaya. Hum a tune. Isn't that Josh's area? He's our resident musician.
Okay.
Yeah, no one wants to hear the stuff that I play.
I do.
He plays metal.
Oh, I definitely want to hear that.
Get everybody woken up.
I would like to make a motion to go ahead and start the meeting.
All right, well, yeah, we'll give her just one more second here. Otherwise, yeah, we'll just get going. She'll be back. Probably just searching for the email.
Well, plus she doesn't vote, right?
Yeah.
Vote on stuff, so we can. That buys her some time. All right, Sonia, let's see if I can find you some music.
All right, well, let's just get rolling here so we're not sticking around. Do we have a motion to move back into open session?
Motion to move back into open session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. No actions taken as a result of open or closed session. Moving on to continuing business, we have the Marigold Drive Stormwater Project MOU addendum with Whatcom County. I will be recusing myself as I work for Whatcom County. So I'll pass it over to Josh to lead this discussion.
All right, we're going to be looking for approval on this evening. Do we have any further discussion on this topic?
So,
Go ahead.
do I make my motion now? or-
Sonia, sorry, wait, hold on a second. Everyone's got their hands up. So we'll do Kim, then Sonia, and then Sam.
I was just wondering if I need to make the motion for you on this now or before we vote.
Yes, let's go ahead and make the motion, and then we'll discuss if needed.
Discussion. So I move to authorize Vice President Joshua Bowens to execute the MOU between Sudden Valley Community Association and Whatcom County. Now
I'll
don't we do
second it.
discussion?
Second,
Seconds and then we do discussion.
do we have any discussion? Yes, that would be you, Kim.
Okay. Is there any discussion for this motion?
Oh, you didn't have a question. You just
I
wanted to
have-
make the motion. All right, let's go with Sonia.
Okay, so I looked over that and I just want to confirm that it appears to me that there's no hidden cost or anything like that they can't come after us for additional cost. But I know that there's been a question about the conservation easement, and it sounds like that we're talking about giving a conservation easement in exchange for them doing this work. They're not going to be paying for that easement, correct? That's the exchange. That's our input, our contribution, correct? That's the association's contribution. Correct.
It's a maintenance easement too, not a conservation easement.
That's a maintenance easement. So the other question, but that's the exchange. We're contributing the easement, the maintenance easement, and they're not paying for that, correct? We're just, that's our portion, and then plus we're committing to the ongoing maintenance of the filters.
Well, also the money that we're paying into, the Sudden Valley is paying into a fund that, from my understanding, that is being used for that. So in addition to the exchange of the easement, we have already paid into that fund.
Well, no, this project's paid for out of REIT money, which comes from the sale of new homes. And so this particular fund it was funded. So there's the stormwater utility fee or whatever you call it, and that has to do with ongoing stormwater projects, and it'll help fund future projects and their work, to help, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what you say. It's to God dang it, AJ, I know you're not supposed to participate. I can't think. That's the stormwater fee does not pay for this project. It's REIT money that pays for this project. The
Okay.
stormwater fee pays for other ongoing projects and to help with the drainage and future stormwater.
Future
stuff.
projects could be paid with that stormwater utility fee. And
Yeah.
and they are responsible for maintaining the treatment systems, and we're responsible for maintaining the conveyance system of the project. So we are not responsible for the filters, they are. That's the easement. There's two easements, a temporary construction easement, and which is just for the construction of everything to happen, and then a permanent maintenance easement. Those are just the facts.
So the only expense to us then is we shouldn't have any ongoing expense, correct? Is that what you're saying to that?
Minor maintenance that we already, instead of ditch maintenance, we have some catch basin maintenance.
Okay. Thank you. That was actually my question. I just didn't articulate it very well, but thank you very much.
Sam, and then Keith.
I've been out there again, snooping around. There was a report that the guys from the county had presented talking about a little bit of erosion along Marigold. between the mailbox and on down to Lake Louise. Well, I found some of the culprits. There is some catch basins and there's some grates and they were covered there. So there is some issues that there's actually several issues over there that some of them may be corrected with that work, but there is some stuff that needs to be cleaned off. And then there is water flowing in the pipe underneath, but then there was water flowing over top of the pipe. And it had washed a bunch of gravel down along with some debris and covered up some grates. So those need to be cleaned off. And then another thing I found that up by the mailbox is there on Marigold and the condos and their grass thing behind, there's a problem in that area of where's that water go? I was looking and there is some culvert pipes. There's some pipes that were there that were doing nothing and the water was running and in some others. And then when I went and crawled in the ditch on the other side of the road, it's really deep there. And I got down to check to see what those pipes were looking like. And there was actually water running out from underneath the road bed coming from the mailbox possibly area. There's something going on underneath the road bed that there was water, not a lot. It wasn't like a broken water line, but it went out of there that the drainage in that side wasn't really doing anything, but there was water coming from the road bed back in that corner. So there's something there. It's got to do with that condo area too. And there could be something that pops up that could end up in our neck of the woods on some parts of that.
Keith?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Sam just said too. There is some issues there, and I'm hoping that all the engineering and so forth will take care of those existing issues that are currently there. And then my other concern was about the mailboxes. I know they said they got a plan in place and all that. I didn't hear anything about a plan, but they are covering a big section of group mailboxes there for this area. And I'm just concerned how mailbox is already an issue in our community, right? You can't get, big packages and whatnot. I'm just concerned what's going to happen with the mailboxes when they, construction's in that area. It's going to be there for a while. So that was it. Just want to make sure they get that covered as well.
Yeah, they'll get the mailbox issue squared away before construction begins. We do that on all our county projects. We have to deal with that type of stuff. So either they'll somehow continue to provide access to residents and the mailman, or they'll put up some sort of temporary, thing during the construction work.
Hey, another, I just happen to think about it right now. That's also the cluster mailboxes. It's also a bus stop.
It'll be summer. They got to do it during the earthwork moratorium.
Yep, gotcha.
So
okay.
June, I guess usually they don't end up starting right away in June a lot of times, but they'll also do all that coordination and outreach effort with those entities as well. That's something their project engineers are required to do and everything.
Yep, very good. Thank you.
Sam?
Yeah, the mailbox area, I think there's a problem there. Not with the county's project, but with our stuff and or the condos. So there's some issues there that need to be investigated because the drainage is not right in that area. And it's right there at the mailbox area and around that. And there should be some really long pipes in there, I guess, because I was looking for some of the different drainage and it just didn't seem to make sense over there of how that was all working. And so there's ends of pipes missing. So there is some stuff that has been covered over or that did something, and it could possibly be even in that condo area that there's some stuff that looks kind of odd there that maybe they in their little grassy area that they might have covered something. That's all I got.
Is there any further discussion?
I'd like to thank Sam for going out there and crawling around underneath the roads and stuff like that. That's dedication.
I would like to suggest not to do that. You know, just saying.
All right, so the motion on the table is to authorize the vice president, me, Joshua Bowens, to execute the MOU between Sudden Valley Community Association and Whatcom County. All those in favor? Hold on, keep your hands up, please.
Aye.
Aye. Sans AJ, who is recusing. Okay, so motion passes unanimously. Does that count as a unanimous if you're recused?
I don't think so.
I'm not voting, so I believe it does, but
We'll look
Semant-
up in Roberts.
We'll confirm that.
semantics, either way, it's approved.
We'll make
That's
sure it's
right.
right. Thanks, Linda.
All right, thanks for running that item, Josh. All right, moving on to new business. We got the 2021 annual survey. And so, let's see. Do this. And so, basically, we went through this with long range planning at the last meeting with them. And we've incorporated all their suggestions. The things that were highlighted in yellow are the changes from the previous year. The rest of the stuff was, largely made to be a year after year thing, so we can compile year after year data, on all of these various topics. And so we added a couple kind of participation questions that were discussed with the long range planning committee. Here, we did remove the questions on the GM for this year as a result of not having a permanent GM for most of the year. And then these were the planning level questions that were put together. And so, I'll just kind of open it up for discussion. I think, what we're looking for is, does anybody feel like there's any questions we need to ask about various topics? If there's any wordsmithing or things like that of questions, we can have some discussions on that here in this meeting, but it might be most productive, to just kind of email in, a revised suggestion on wordsmithing stuff to the board, so we can kind of all consider that. It's a little bit easier to do that stuff. And then based on the feedback we get tonight, we'll put everything together again. And then we'll kind of send out a final proof for everyone to look over, both the LRPC and the board. I saw Kim's hand first, then Linda.
Just some feedback on this survey. A lot of the questions were duplicates from last year. It's my opinion that the survey should be much shorter this year. 33 questions is a lot for a follow-up. I feel like maybe every 3 years you should do a longer survey. And maybe we have new residents here this year, but not sure what the turnover is, but we just answered a lot of these questions in the last survey. It's my opinion that it shouldn't be longer than 15 questions, and I don't know that we need to be re-asking a lot of the questions that we asked last year. Question 10 and 11, one of the new ones, those are ones that I don't think should be in there. I know that what you're driving at is you're trying to ask if there are any barriers to engagement. And just going back to your survey purpose, but I think it's too long. Like, I wouldn't answer it, especially if I answered that long survey last year, which I did, of course, because I helped sign it. So, but I can certainly email more feedback, but those are my initial thoughts.
Linda, then Sonia.
Just a real quick question of when do you anticipate putting out this? I know you say we're going to look at it, we're going to wordsmith it. When are you going to put this out to everybody? Is it going to be done like it was before with hard copies and online, or just online? If you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, we're planning on doing the online version only with, paper copies at admin for those without internet access. The random sampling is something we are basically proposing to do every kind of 3 years, or even one thing the committee's been considering is on that 3rd year major review, we do like a full on hard copy mailed in like the AGM ballot packet to everyone. And then getting it out will be as soon as we get everything finalized. So, getting feedback here tonight from the board, putting together kind of a final proof for everyone to review one last time, and then working with John to get it out to the community on SurveyMonkey.
Yeah, I hear you. It's just we're running up on the AGM. Well, we're all aware of that. And it's just, that's why I asked, is it going to be out before then? We have one board meeting. If we're going to wait and take a look at that beforehand, or if we're just going to wordsmith it and get our suggestions back to you guys, back to long range planning for it, whatever. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, the goal would definitely be to get it out here by the end of the month.
Okay.
And I think, yeah, basically it would just be, are there any other kind of planning level questions that we need that, maybe we're not thinking about that we should ask? And then if everyone's good with the questions that we have, we'll, and there's no wordsmithing type things to do, then, we'll be able to get it out sooner rather than later. I did send this back to Long Range Planning Committee via email for any additional feedback. I made some tweaks to the questions that we presented at the last long range planning meeting. And I made some tweaks based on their feedback. And one person has gotten back so far saying it looks good. So just giving them a little bit more time here. Yeah. Sonia?
Well, I just want to kind of reiterate the way that these work, because they part of this is a way to measure performance and satisfaction, and so that's why it's important to measure these annually. And in addition, the Long Range Planning Committee is tasked with doing an annual needs assessment, an annual community needs assessment, and then a major review. We determined last year that the way that we would do the needs assessment is through the annual survey. And so that's why we're continuing the format and not actually narrowing it down. Rather, what we do is, what we determined was that we have the 1 year major, we're working off of a 3-year cyclical calendar on our planning. And so if we have the first year major review, that's when we would maybe do, we're really introducing like new planning projects or ideas or everything. Years 2 and 3 are to drill down on some of those planning questions, which is why what these do is they, because we kind of touched on some of this, during the last survey. And now that we have a good idea of what the community wants, as far as like, we don't want new buildings, we want to take care of the buildings that we have, etc. And we had, like I said, touched on a few of these things. Then we're trying to drill down on that, right? So that's what you're seeing there. I kind of also agree about questions 10 and 11. I don't think necessarily that I don't know. But I can go either way with them. I'm just going to say that. I'll defer to everybody else. But I think they could come out. I mean, honestly, the only thing I would do maybe different in here, like we do, this is an online survey, so it'll go much quicker. It won't feel, it may feel long to some people, but the thing is, you got to remember, it's once a year. It's really important. And these are making, this is how we direct our resources, our human and our financial resources of the association. So it's really important for the community to participate in that. So we really want to keep that annual momentum going. So like AJ was saying, if we do it the same time every year, we feel pretty confident that this years 2 and 3 that we can safely, take a read off of, just online. But it's the major review. It's real important that we allow people to fill it out online, but we send it out to every community member. And like I said, the more everybody gets used to filling them out annually, the better it is for everybody, because you can already see how our planning process is tied to these results, a lot of these results. And so it's real important that we just keep that momentum going and we keep that feedback going. It helps us with the planning process.
Sorry, I can't see anyone when everyone when I'm sharing my screen necessarily. So if I'm missing a hand.
I just have something to add, guys. I like the I like that. I know we talked about density reduction and what does that mean. I like that description, AJ. I thought it was a nice description there, and the clarification of the previous question, the hiking only or multi-use, biking and walking. I think that's also a clarification that we discussed. So yeah, I mean, it looks good. Looks good to me.
Yeah, I also changed a little bit of the last question because it had having the whether we explore additional food, vendors in the community tied up in 26 was a little bit strange. So I separated those two as well, just to have a bit more clarity. So 2 people have expressed concerns over these 2 questions. Does anyone else, feel that it's not really warranted of asking?
Well, let's talk about that. Why are we asking it? We were asking it to see if people feel like there are barriers to participating. And we do have some committees that are a little bit on the low side right now in terms of participation. So it might be useful information, but I don't know. Let's hear some other voices.
Well, it's the number one. They're worded. It depends on what you're trying to get to. Brian, or is there a barrier to you and your participation on the board? Like it's worded in a way when it's asking you, is there a barrier to your participation on the board or on a committee? So what happens to all of the people that aren't on the board or on a committee? To me, the wording's a little off. And I'm just saying, like, if those are 2 questions that I would go, we either reword them a little bit.
I see your point. Yeah, we could reword them, or do we want to just get rid of them for sure?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, removing them would shorten things up a little bit, to Kim's point.
Well,
I think we've estimated, I think this, my estimation of the survey would be about 10, 15 minutes or so. A lot of it is, there's a little bit less as far as the write-in questions as there was last year. And so, yeah. Keith, sorry.
no, that's good. Back to 10 and 11, I think it'd be interesting to see why people would not even want to submit an application to be on the board, why they don't want to submit an application to be on the ACC or the NNE. It might be useful information to find out what they feel the barriers are, or why they wouldn't be interested in doing so.
I mean, I envision we're going to get a whole host of different reasons that, is going to run the gamut. That could be one reason to not ask the question, just because it's going to be the kitchen sink, basically. Everyone's going to have their own reasons.
Well, my point is, what are we going to do with that information?
Well, isn't that no different than the information of, do you want your amenities improved or not? Some people are all for it. Some people are all against it. So don't you take them? I'm not sure how you guys are using the information you received.
I just think I just think it needs to be, if you want to drill down on that question to actually ask what you're asking, Keith, it just needs to be worded different. I feel like, you maybe even we could preface it with something like, there's ongoing, certain committees, I don't know, have ongoing low applicants or something like that, blah, 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 is why do you feel that is? And is there, some barrier to, what's stopping you from applying? I don't know. I'm having a really hard time with words tonight. I apologize.
Well, my question is, what are you going to do with the information? So,
what Keith is asking a very specific.
Okay, so people are going to give you some examples like, oh, well, I don't have internet, or, oh, I'm really busy working and raising my kids. What are you going to do with that information? It's just
so let's say it was that, because here's the thing, because I actually can see Keith's point. Like, we moved, a few years ago, ACC was not a standing, it wasn't an elected position. Those are appointed positions. They now become elected positions, but we every year never have enough people. And the same thing, of course, NNE is, has always been like that too. And so these are ongoing things. It happens a lot when people are pretty complacent. I can remember like more than once since I've moved here where there'd be like 3 board openings and only 2 people ran. It's only been recently that there's been like a glut of applicants. And now we're starting to, see that pendulum, swing back, and people are getting, back into being a little more complacent. But the thing is, what is that problem? Because some of these, like with ACC and NNE, those are governance committees. They have to operate. So, there is a deeper question there, which is, what do we do about that? We don't have proper participation on those committees. How do we address that? Because we do have to find a solution to like ACC can't run with 1 or 2 people. Yeah. And so is there a problem? And if it is, what is that problem? What's preventing community members from being a part of that? So I can kind of understand that question. This question, when it's written, I don't.
I won't claim to be an expert at writing these questions. That's why we got a bunch of brains involved. But yeah, some of that stuff is like, to Kim's point, someone's like, oh, I don't have time. Like, we can't really mitigate, that necessarily, to an extent. Like, if if you don't have the time or the schedule to be on the ACC, then it's, it's just not in the cards. But if some of the reasons are things that we could try to mitigate, then, there would be that information. But, some of the information may be useful and some of it might not. So is it warranted asking?
Well, I guess my question would be of any questions on here then. Some people have time to use the amenities, some people don't. Some people have, the money to say, hey, let's increase the amenities, and some people don't. To me, it's really no different than any question you're asking. I assume you're just taking the majority of responses and then trying to correct that, or see your way to making that happen. I'm
Well,
not.
it's actually, it actually is a lot different though, Keith, because, amenities cost money and raise dues, and, so it's a huge.
I'm just using that as an example. I'm saying
right.
there's a lot of questions on here about a lot of different things. And so I don't see these two questions as being out of place. You may get some valuable response, you may not. I guess you could use it how you want to use it, but I just don't. I think it's probably okay to have these questions on there myself.
Can I make a suggestion? How about if because yes, reading it initially, I also I agreed with Kim too that I didn't see the purpose of them. I hear what you're saying, Keith, and I understand, what you're getting at. I think that there is a way to word these questions. We just have to spend a little time, over the next day or so, I think, and then maybe if everybody, because what he's saying is like some of these committees, so as you all know, ad hoc committees, the committees operate at the pleasure of the board. But there are standing committees that they are part of our bylaws and this association, and they are part of the fabric of the association. And if they are not operating properly, then none of the governance operates properly. And so if we're having a problem about people participating on those standing committees that are actually governance committees, then we need to figure out why that is. And do we need to restructure something? I don't know what the answer is, but I'm kind of I'm agreeing with Keith, because this is an ongoing problem. It's not just this year. It wasn't just last year. I've seen this repeatedly, and usually by November on ACC, people start not showing up and everything like that. It also happens with a lot of committees because people get busy with other things in the summer. But like ACC has to operate, right? So we need to figure out how are we going to address that if we do, how do we deal with that? I think it's a fair question based on what he's saying. I think that it does not work with this wording. I think we need to adjust this wording to address his concerns.
Maybe we should tailor it towards standing committees in our bylaws, since those are mandatory things that we need to, have operate as part of our governance structure. Linda?
I kind of agree with you and I understand and I agree with Sonia's point of view. Not only is ACC in our bylaws, they're in our restrictive covenants, and they go a long way back. They go farther back than the board in some cases, where they put certain guidelines in place for building and that sort of thing. And it is upsetting. I don't know, is it because there are so many people on the committee? I know it's a big time. A big portion of your time is spent doing that. And I think this pandemic has made it even more onerous for everybody to get out, look at new builds, look at the things they have to look at. They used to go as a group, and I think that helped. And I think that since that's kind of fallen apart and everybody has to go individually, it's, in a way, it's a good thing, and in a way, it's a bad thing. But I think that it really is imperative to deal with the entity and with ACC. You don't have AGMs and voting and counting without an N&E committee. So I think the whole idea of trying to make sure that our standing committees are covered, really, that should be a priority for the board. That's all I got.
Well, I agree with that.
All right, well, maybe, people can kind of think about that language over the next day or so. And if, you've come to a revelation of, a solid way to word that, then I would ask that you maybe email that to the board so we can all review it and consider it, and, and we can kind of try to get the language to be, what we want it to be. And we can ask that question. And if, and if there are, there's going to be responses that are like what Kim said. There's, oh, I have work, I have time. Like, and we can't, like, I have those same excuses, myself, and, but, I'm still here or whatever. So, it is possible, but, not everyone wants to make that commitment and stuff. And you can't change people from wanting to do that. And, not everyone wants to participate either. They just want to speak their mind and then, walk away from it all and not have to think about it till the next time they speak their mind. So we'll work on kind of reassessing that question and figuring out the best way to word it. Does anyone, as far as these kind of planning level questions, does anyone feel like there's, anything we're missing that we should be asking, or,
Did everybody have time to just look over them real quick? Do you want to take them one by one, or is everybody comfortable with them?
Keith?
Yeah, I just had one, like, I don't know about the wording exactly on this one. So like 26, it's kind of like you ask complete interior renovation may require a special assessment, or cost efficient repairs and replacements only as needed with no special assessments. It's like, I don't know. It's like, who wouldn't pick B, right? I mean, yeah, let's do a refurbishment without costing any money. It's like leading people into, I don't know if that's what you want, or, if you want, I don't know. I just looked at that and that one struck me as odd.
So can I jump in there? So Keith, so let's ask this. So these questions don't just have to have 2 responses, right? Could have 4 responses. So there's levels in there. We did that with the barns.
My bad. I did not see that where there's levels of responses.
Well, I'm just saying there's right here, there's only 2 responses, but I'm saying this is a draft. So we can add other, like, I'm just saying to you, even though these are, you've got basically A and B here, we can add A, B, C, D. If you feel like that's kind of why we're putting this forward, right? Like if there's another, what's the other option, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
So
I was just saying, like me, if I was looking at it, of course, I'm going to go with B. I don't want to pay any extra money, but hey, I'd like to see a nicer place. It's like, that's like the obvious choice. And so I don't know. To me, it's just like it's like leading people in. Who wouldn't pick B, right? I mean,
well, so I can kind of explain.
Well, I mean,
maybe. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say our reserve study got stuff full of multi-million-dollar building replacements and stuff, so part of it is, clearly there are people, maybe it's just those specific board members who made those decisions to do that. And they're the only ones who believe that. That doesn't seem to be the case. That seems like there are other people, but that's part of it, is like, there's been some plans put in place, previously that maybe didn't, you didn't really ask the membership like what their thoughts were on these, big plans and determine is that something that they actually want to do. But I agree with Sonia, there could be levels added into that question, that give, give you some flexibility there on what it could be.
So that's what we did with the barn, right? Like there were kind of two types of questions. There were two questions that would have potentially been an additional special assessment. And then there were two that were no special assessments or increases in dues, but they were kind of layered. Like one was demo the barn and don't do anything. The other was repair, and refurbish with no additional dues. And then it went up, right? Like to where there would be like the complete, rebuild. So that's the, so in here, it doesn't necessarily, because they are two extremes. One is just, let's take care of the building. Let's take care of the necessary maintenance and repairs. The other is, let's remodel the building. And without, obviously we don't know if that would cost extra money. That's why it says may require special assessment, because you'd have to get those bids and determine if it does require special assessment or not. But is there an in-between place between those two?
It's A+. You have A plus and B. Yeah, who knows, right?
Yeah, Linda, then Sam.
It's the whole thing with Barn 6 and its cost. You guys kind of had put a number out there on this, and it's like, I think that if you refurbish it to be used again, originally that was used for indoor sports. It'd be real nice if, you could do things with farmer markets and that sort of thing seasonally as necessary. People might not want to play basketball in there in the summer, but they sure probably might in the winter. I don't know that you'd want to necessarily put the ice rink back in there in the winter again. But it's just, there's that question, Sonia was saying maybe it would cost more, and that's the whole thing that was discussed during the budget season this year, was that it wouldn't. The only thing that I wanted to mention about trails, I think I'm concerned because I've seen emails from some people who live up here by me who have concerns about the mountain bikers coming up here and accessing accessing the trails above Repeater. And the last I heard, those trails are not county approved unless they've expanded them now and included them in their trail system. But, there was a picture sent to the board not long ago where it showed lots of cars and people up here. And I don't know that I want to include bikes if that means all of a sudden I'm going to have mountain bikers cruising along in here if people are trying to walk with their little kids.
Yeah, and one of those pictures, to add to that, it was actually a mountain bike tour van. I don't know if it was local or just someone who just happened to have that van, but it was interesting to see that was parked up there and people unloading out of that.
Yeah, that's been they do that quite often and drop them down there and they go up Repeater.
I will say,
Repeater used to be blocked off completely. And the last time I was up there, there was a nice little parking spot for people that wanted to mountain bike. And there was a little sign up there from the mountain biking group going, hey guys, we're not supposed to be up here, but I think I still have the screenshot of that. And I just, I can remember when the county put a sign up at Repeater that told people not to access the trails from that area. And it got tore down. I wonder how that happened, but I don't know if the county has changed their theory and it's okay for people to be up there, or it's just the fact that the county hasn't come and put a sign back on that fence where their property and Sudden Valleys joins.
No, they're still
No.
not supposed to be up
I've-
there, Linda.
I've talked to the executive director of the Mountain Bike Coalition, about that topic, people coming up Gate 28. They don't want to use Gate 28. They are trying to work with the county on developing a trail that goes up to Repeater Road, off of Lake Whatcom Boulevard, so they're not using Sudden Valley to access those trails. The county, they're not official trails, part of the county's trail system, but the county has, they kind of took a hardline stance for a while, but I think they've laxed and just kind of looked the other way for the most part on those trails at this point is, pretty much what I've heard from the mountain bike people. The idea would be, connecting to the interurban style trail, be connecting to those like official areas. So Lookout Mountain parking lot, gate 13 logging road is an official entrance into Galbraith Mountain. And then like the backside or the side area of Lookout, as well. So it'd be, getting you to those destinations of that, getting Gate 5 people down to, the marina, the rec corridor, the Valley Market area, all that kind of thing, and then everybody in between all those areas, getting them whichever direction they want to go, and the Gate 1 and 2 people up to those trail systems, those sanctioned trail systems and stuff like that.
So I'm sorry, I can't see who's got their hand up, so I apologize. You're not suggesting that we're opening these trail systems up to those county trail systems, are you?
No, I
But
mean,
you're
they,
talking
they
about
will get
connecting our.
you, they will get you to like that Lookout Mountain parking lot, like it'll put you in that general vicinity. Obviously there has to be planning done to see if what's feasible and what's not, but the trail system is to get you from various parts of the community, to other parts without, we get a lot of discussion and complaints about lack of road shoulders, people having to walk on the roads. It's going to be a means of being able to get around our community as community members without having to utilize, the road system, all the time. So it's not like the trail is going to connect into like a Lookout Mountain trail or whatever, but it's going to connect you to like that parking lot where you would start your hike,
So I would
up into
think
Lookout.
So I would think that the trails would have to follow the same requirements as our roads, which means that we're a closed. Only our main entryway roads can connect to the county roads. So I would think the trail system would have to do something. It should. I realize it doesn't. I know I see what happens at Area Y. But I would think that those trail systems, especially one that's significant, like what you're talking about, would need to kind of stay within those same guidelines of staying within the closed geographic area of Sudden Valley. So maybe it would have to exit out onto the main road. I mean, not the county road, but like onto a main Sudden Valley gate exit or something like that, but not actually connect to the county property. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just to get you around the community, in a more safe environment than dealing with walking along our narrow roads with cars, going by you in the middle of the winter, in the dark, with it raining, kind of thing. But
so
what about Sam and then
okay, sorry.
I got Sam and then Kim.
Yeah. I don't know, have too many problems with all these questions. Some of them, it's a lot at times looking at it, but you're right, online it's not so bad. But I really like seeing the may require special assessment. I like to see that thrown in because there's a lot of people out here that if you start putting this stuff out, it's like, oh, we got plenty of money to do stuff. Look at all this. And I really like that. I really like to see that it's like, okay, this would be above and beyond. And so I really do, at least I like seeing that may require special assessment. I would like to see that on anything that starts to run up in the cost. That
Kim?
I wanted to ask a question if it is possible to, because my concern is with the length of the survey, that people are going to look at those questions and say, I answered this last year. So my question is, do they have to be asked every year, or can you ask the newer questions this year, like the ones that you're drilling down on with respect to the why am I drawing a blank on that report that we do, that the auditors just did that report? I'm drawing a blank on it. But is it possible to rely on some of the information from last year, from the questions that you're asking again, and drill down on the new questions to shorten it? Because my overall concern is that you're going to get less participation from people if they've never been asked. That survey hadn't been done before in many years. We get this huge survey this year, and then it's like, oh, now you're asking me all this stuff again. So wanting to at least drill down on some of the questions that we're adding to it that we didn't ask last year, to try to elicit more specific information, and maybe every other year do the bigger one or the longer one, so that we can try to keep the engagement up. Just a recommendation.
I do think, some of this stuff is very very quick, in general, just to answer. Like, there's not these questions highlighted in yellow down here take, a fair amount of, you think about these ones, but these kind of bulk bubbles are it's just okay, have you used these within the last 2 months? And you just go check kind of thing. And it goes pretty quick. I think we do have quite a bit of houses that turn over, and I can speak from my experience. My first 12 months here, I didn't use much of anything. I was, doing work on my house, doing things like that. I wasn't really focused on all the things that had to offer. I was getting settled in my house, and doing that type of stuff. But now that we're more settled, we go down to the barns and play at the playgrounds. We go to the playground right down the street from us. We'll drive over to Gate 5 and use that playground, or we'll go to the pools now in the summertime, and or we go down to the marina. I use the marina and like to go sit down there now, sometimes in the evening, and just kind of enjoy the peace and quiet on the spit and things like that. So it's kind of to try to gauge, these are very much how much do you use this stuff. These are your needs, so you can have that kind of gap assessment, okay, these are important to me, but I'm not very satisfied with this, or this isn't important to me and it's fine, or I don't really care, kind of thing. Whereas in some of this stuff is, you could maybe, do you need to ask these 2 questions every single year? But, those also kind of prime people and start getting them thinking, what do you like most about Sudden Valley? What are you not liking? And it kind of gets you into all those questions.
Again, they're performance questions too, the performance satisfaction questions. So they're pretty relevant, you know, because you can have a big change in just like if we just did that every 3 years, you have a really significant change and we will have missed it. Like we might start seeing like we do have a change right now where, you know, we know that people are looking for more outdoor recreation, you know, because of COVID and everything. But we need to start trying to figure out, well, what are they using and what are they wanting? You know, that type of thing. And we can start to pretty quickly see where people are unhappy watching those, like I said, the performance and, you know, the importance and the satisfaction. We know people will rank everything kind of high, but, you know, we can watch that satisfaction level too. And because let's say, for instance, if an amenity or a facility or a program starts ranking really low in importance, and we're also seeing that people aren't even using it, then we know, let's don't put our money there. Let's don't put our resources there, right? And then we make adjustments that way. But if we wait for 3 years, we may be too slow reacting, you know, because it takes us, you know, a year. We have to start planning these things minimum of a year ahead of time, depending on what it is, you know, and we have the long-term capital planning. So we're kind of a slow, you know, we're slow to react. So we kind of have to try to start seeing these trends and indicators as quickly as possible so we can make adjustments. So I'd like to just say this though about the trail thing. I'd like to suggest maybe adding another option, which isn't just hiking and the bikes, but perhaps actually walking trails that are wide enough to accommodate strollers, because they're actually, you know, they're a wider width than a hiking trail.
Yeah, it says interurban type trail, which is exactly what you're speaking to.
Okay.
That definitely, like the trail system that's being, you know, that would be planned out to get you from point A to point B would not be your primitive hiking trail, you know, like some of what we have now. It's not your, you know, it's going to be, you know, more that interurban style so that there's ample room, two-way traffic, you know, kind of thing, like you would see, you know, like all of our kind of interurban trails that run through Bellingham, either out to the Chuckanuts or, you know, along Whatcom Creek, Whatcom Falls Park, you know, those types of gravel, you know, they're, you know, we're looking for grades that are feasible for, you know, all users, you know, and things like that. You know, and then obviously you could have, you know, you might have some, you know, obviously you can't build an interurban style trail to like every neck of the neighborhood or whatever. So, you know, like we're going to have to do our best to try to put a plan together and put something in place that can get as many people to this trail system as possible, and, you know, to be able to utilize it to get from various gates to various gates. You know, thinking about it more along the lines of a sidewalk alternative as opposed to a hiking trail. You know, in some of these places, the trail you might actually find yourself coming off a green space and being adjacent to a roadway, you know, until you get to another green space where then it can move off the roadway or things like that. You know, that'll all have to get kind of developed, you know, part of the RFQ that we approve with the roads and drainage and pedestrians. You know, the plan is to utilize the engineering firm that gets selected to help us, you know, plan some of that stuff out. All right. Well, do we have any other feedback then? So I guess the two kind of big things I'm hearing are, you know, maybe we want to look at the wording of that 10 and 11 question on barriers to participation. And then, you know, if we can come up with a couple other, you know, answers to the the clubhouse question, as Keith was saying. Those are kind of the two big things I'm hearing. Is there anything else that I'm not remembering? All right, well, take a look at those, and if you have some good wording that you think will help, please send it to the board via email so we can all look at it and consider it, and then we'll try to package up a final proof to send to the committee, long range planning committee, and back to you guys on the board, and just, you know, finalize everything up before we work with John to get it out. All right, well, moving on to AGM and organizational meeting discussion. So just real quick on the organizational meeting, that'll be after the AGM. Typically what happens is the N&E committee will meet, they'll select a chair. That chair will then chair the organizational meeting and help us conduct the vote to select new officers for next year's board. And so essentially what will happen and what we did last year was, and I'll send out an email on this, just like I did last year. I'll include everyone that'll be on the board next year, and also, is it Tammy or Tammy? I don't know. I did briefly watch the candidate forum, but we have Sam and Sonia here. She's the other board member who is running this year. So, and all of them will obviously be on the board. And so, you know, what we did last year is we nominate, you know, board members will nominate people for the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer roles. And then we just have a vote via hands to elect those officers. And that's the only business that we conduct at the organizational meeting. And so that'll happen. What I'm thinking will be easiest, and this is probably easiest for John as well, and helping us get some of this stuff set up, is N&E can meet, and I'm not sure exactly how Linda and the committee have discussed their meeting to select a chair. But they'll meet, and then we can hopefully just use the dance barn where we hold the AGM and have that organizational meeting in that same space. I know the previous years we did it down in the multi-purpose room, but we're already going to have cameras and all that recording stuff set up in the dance barn room. So it's probably easiest to just host that meeting, you know, right there. It's a very short meeting, shouldn't take more than 15 minutes or so, maybe 20 minutes. And then, yeah, I think that's, Linda, how has your committee discussed how they're meeting for that, for your purposes yet, or?
Just basically, it's like, when everything's all over with, I hope we can all agree to meet somewhere. I know I'll be downstairs until Unilec leaves and we get all the ballots and stuff put together and locked away in that closet down there. I think that 2 of the members of my committee will be upstairs for the meeting, or for most of it, because they're going to be the ones that are going to take registration when people come, when the in-person members come to sit. There's a place where they sign in. They'll be handling that. Also, they'll be collecting any ballots that are voted from the floor. So I anticipate I'm going to have 2 people up there, but we can arrange to meet somewhere at the end of the AGM, because you're going to have to post the unofficial results. That's like one of the last things before the end of the AGM. So I'll know that, because it's going to have to be transferred up to you. We're going to have to discuss how that gets done this year. And it's maybe going to have to be a screen share with somebody. We'll have to see how John sets up and does things with Zoom and everything. In the past, there's always been that big screen that's up there for viewing. And usually that's where that's been posted to. But I'm not sure how that's going to be done, because before it was always on a laptop and a thumb drive, and I'm sure it may be screen share if John's doing Zoom. I'm not certain how he feels about that, or how it, how it looks.
I
Maybe
think the way
that's
things are
something-
panning out, we'll have we'll have a similar setup up there to still work with.
Okay,
maybe Linda, it's easiest just right after the AGM in that same dance barn space, you guys have your meeting, and then once you're done, the board has its organizational meeting. And
that works.
then we're kind of just, we're not trying to set up multiple areas, and kind of not spreading John, super thin all over the
Yep.
place, and obviously the community likes to kind of chit chat and stuff after the AGM, but those meetings don't take too long. And so I don't think, that would be, too big of an issue.
No, you just do a quick little huddle. There's usually not all 5 of us there. And so it's just 3 or 4 people there doing their thing. And it's like a 5-minute meeting of just, this is the secretary, this is the chair. Thank you. Goodbye. All done. Meeting adjourned.
Yeah. And that's pretty much all we got as well. So I think that's a good plan then, to just use
Okay.
that same space. So we don't
Okay.
have to create 2 different spaces, like we've done in the past. Keep things simple.
I agree. One of the things you haven't done yet, and I don't know if you want to wait, there's orientation to talk about, and if you want to wait, that's fine until after you're organized for 2022. But you also need to think about your November and December meetings, because you usually only meet one time. The board does. And normally the outgoing board sort of tentatively sets those dates for when you're going to be having your meeting in November, the one in November and the one in December. Just so you know, N&E is planning on doing their certification on the 8th, which is like the Monday after the AGM. It's real easy to do with all of Unilex. They give us a whole certification report, so it makes it really clean and really quick. But they'll be ready to do the certification to the board then whenever they meet in November.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll have on the next board agenda us talking about November, December dates. Usually we do second Thursday in November, second Thursday in December. So we're avoiding those holiday periods at the end of both those months.
Yeah, I hear you.
But we'll
I just-
finalize that at the next meeting
Good.
for sure. And then, I'm working on starting to, determine the orientation stuff, and the plan is definitely to do it sooner than we did last year. Last year, I think we did it like January. So the goal would be to have it sooner than that, so board members can get a better feel for their roles and stuff. One benefit we do have is I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right, but Tammy will be the only one who hasn't had any experience yet sitting on this particular board. I don't know if she's, participated in any other boards or anything, in her. So, but, that'll be something we're trying to do. And then, a good goal too would be Jaime. Okay, thanks, Ann. I'm terrible with names, especially with people I've never met. Another goal would be to have maybe a committee orientation sometime in 2022, once all the committees are established and we've, gotten members, and then we can have a better discussion with everybody to kind of understand how everyone functions together and how the roles all work, and how the committee takes and builds recommendations to give to the board and, things like that. So that's something I'd like to try to work on putting together for next year so that, the community can better understand that relationship between committees and the board.
One of the things I'd almost recommend, and it just occurred to me, is if it looks like you're going to have a new general manager, might be nice, especially with the board, to make sure that he's able to perhaps join that orientation also.
Or she.
I'm sorry. I don't want to say it. I hear you though. But I think that that's beneficial to a new general manager to understand, have all that information. Just an excellent presentation by Rich. He does just excellent presentations. So does our insurance person. And I think that would be really important for him to understand some of those really strong things that are taught at board orientation.
Yeah, we would definitely, if it all works out that way, we would have them involved for sure.
Okay, just
If
give
not,
it some
we will
thought.
be putting together, a fairly comprehensive orientation,
Yep,
and onboarding binder for general manager as well. So
yeah. Just give it some thought. That's all I'm saying. I just think it'd be a really good idea.
I have one question kind of about the AGM for John, and I just wanted to get your kind of thoughts on how we're doing this kind of hybrid model this year, and unless the governor comes down with, some gathering restrictions or whatever, we're kind of stuck doing an in-person meeting, but we want to try to limit the need for everybody to have to show up in person. So we also, are providing that Zoom capability. How, if we're doing both like that, do you see a good mechanism for allowing because there's discussion after each agenda item, right? The budget, each bylaw measure, and then there's voting. Obviously, you have to vote in person at the AGM. You can't vote via Zoom. But if people want to make a discussion point via Zoom, are they going to be able to speak? And will the assembly in the building be able to hear them? Or how would we go about that? That was one question I had.
Yeah. So the first part of that question is we can get that sorted out as far as getting a way for somebody to be able to place a question at the podium. I guess we probably will have the real podium out there.
Yes.
That part won't be a problem. The second part is something that I'm still working on, but I think we'll have a solution for, is getting audio in the dance barn. We'll be able to get people on Zoom, no problem. We'll be able to get, we'll be able to make the hybrid approach work. But I still have a little bit of work to do as far as making sure we have good sound in the building.
Okay. And I think just to clarify too, it's unlike our kind of board meetings where it's like, questions or like proper comments and a board response. Like the AGM is more like people come up and they make their statements, and like the board's not there to like respond to the people necessarily.
Yeah, my understanding was just one mic, so that makes it pretty easy.
So
Sonia, then Kim.
Well, I was just going to suggest, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, the auditor did his presentation remotely to the board, and I don't know how that sound was set up, but it was. I was there. It was really, so it was a live feed, right? And but we could all hear him really well. I'm not sure, they must have hooked it into a speaker, but I was just going to suggest that maybe find out however they did that, because it worked really well and it was live, and the sound was.
We'll try to reproduce that. I just didn't want to speak out of turn on that since I haven't tested it yet.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Kim?
I just wanted to make sure that that we make it known to the community that masks are required for the meeting, based on the governor's mandates. We are asking for people to wear masks if they come down. Is that correct?
Yeah, all our buildings have mask required signs up, I believe, currently. I know admin,
we do,
I know the
yeah, and we
administration
do down
building
at the
does.
community center has them, and I've already purchased masks and hand sanitizer for in-person voting on Saturday morning.
Okay, I didn't notice anything or any kind of notices when we got our voting materials, and I'm not noticing anything in any of our publications. Just to reiterate that, I think it would be a good idea that we make that more prominent. And then just knowing what our plan is, if someone refuses or if they can't for health reasons, I think we need to have that discussion and have a plan before the AGM.
And who knows, it's like, it's down in Seattle, they've gotten to where you have to prove you're vaccinated. And it's like, who knows what's going to happen by November? They're opening our borders. That's going to happen real soon here. I anticipate before the end of October. And it's like, you're right. It's good. And probably N&E should look at that, because the first place they're going to stop is being registered when they come in the door. And maybe it would be a nice thing to have a security guard that stands at that entrance to the dance barn. And if hopefully there's not going to be any problems, or we ask Pacific Security for an extra person that just deals with the AGM up there.
That might be a good idea. And Brent made a comment about masks and negative test and vaccination requirements for large gatherings. I guess that was probably the governor's last speech, Brent. And then also, I'm not sure what qualifies as a large gathering. Like, what is the amount of people that is required for that, if you know that, Brent?
That's a good question though, Kim.
So that doesn't take effect until the 15th. Just FYI. Yeah.
November 15th, right?
But yeah, I would think we should be following the governor mandate, for that stuff for sure. Be consistent.
Well, it's definitely masks for indoors.
Yeah. And
Date.
hopefully, that's a big reason why we're kind of providing the hybrid approach, so if people don't want to wear masks, then, ideally they can participate via Zoom, and then, getting that set up with John so that they can speak in the assembly and the building can hear them, doesn't preclude them from participating. They'll just have to make sure they vote, prior to the AGM, because that requires being in person if you're going to vote on the floor. All right. Well, I will work with Linda and we'll get the N&E meeting and the org meeting scheduled, the agendas, for the website. I will email everyone that'll be on the board next year that will be participating in that organizational meeting, kind of instructions on how that goes, especially for Timey, since that'll be her first time. So it's try to do that for everyone that came on board last year, so everyone had a kind of an understanding of how the meeting functions, how you vote, what you're voting on, because it all happens very quickly after you're elected. And then we'll work on getting the orientation stuff and getting a date started to figure out for that, and we can kind of maybe talk about that at the next board meeting. And on setting a date for that, along with the November, December meetings for next year's board. And yeah, I think my biggest concern with the AGM was just asking about people on Zoom being able to speak. So is there any other questions related to the AGM or the organizational meeting? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on. And then I think we got our amended agenda. So Keith's got one ACC member for approval. What was her name again, Keith?
Her name is Susie Zelensky.
All right. Are there any objections to approving Susan Zelensky to the ACC committee? All right. Hearing none, that is a go. Thank you, Susie, for joining. Appreciate that.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Keith. All right. That is the end of our new business. So we'll move into property owner comments and then adjournment.
Yeah, we've got a few people still with us here. So if anybody would like to jump in for this round, go ahead and hit the raise hand in Zoom. And I was asked earlier to detail this a little bit more on the apps. If you tap on the phone, you should get a menu. There'll be an option there for raise hand. And then on an iPad, same kind of thing, but it should be in the upper right corner. Not seeing anything tonight, seems like.
No. All right. Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn at 9:13 p.m.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.